It was a cool fall morning in Aspen Ridge, a small American town where life moved slowly and neighbors still greeted each other by name. The trees had already begun their golden transformation, shedding crimson and amber leaves that carpeted the sidewalks like a silent tribute to time. In a quiet corner of town stood a modest assisted living center known as Golden Pines. It was home to many elderly residents, but it wasn't just a place for rest. It was a place where wisdom echoed down its halls, often overlooked by the younger generation too busy chasing time to pause and listen. But today would be different. Jason Cole, a 32-year-old documentary filmmaker from Chicago, had recently lost his grandfather. That loss struck him harder than he had expected. The two had shared long talks about life, mistakes, regrets, and victories. But now those conversations were gone, leaving behind questions Jason never got to ask. Fueled by a newfound desire to record the voices of the elderly, Jason arrived in Aspen Ridge with a small camera crew, determined to document the life lessons of those society often forgot. He walked into Golden Pines with a respectful nod, camera slung over his shoulder, and a simple question for each resident he met. What's one honest life lesson you've learned that no one really talks about? The first person he spoke with was Eleanor Dawson, a sharp 87-year-old with snow-white hair, always sitting by the window with a mystery novel in hand. She smiled when Jason asked the question. People always talk about chasing dreams, she said, but no one tells you that sometimes your dreams will change, and that's okay. I wanted to be a concert pianist. I ended up becoming a music teacher. And though I never played in Carnegie Hall, I helped dozens of kids discover music. That became more meaningful than anything I had planned for myself. Eleanor paused, looking out the window. I wasted too many years feeling like I failed just because my life didn't look like what I imagined at 20. But here's the truth. Life doesn't care about your blueprint. It unfolds its own story. You have to learn to readjust, adapt, and find beauty in the detours. Jason nodded, absorbing her words. Next, he interviewed Harold Benson, 91 years old, a Korean War veteran and once a successful insurance salesman. Jason found him on the porch, sipping hot tea with trembling hands. You know what nobody talks about? Harold asked. Loneliness. And not just the kind you feel when you're alone, but the kind you feel when you're surrounded by people who don't really see you. I was married for 55 years. Had 3 kids. But there were times I felt invisible. He chuckled softly. I realized too late that being busy wasn't the same as being present. I gave my best energy to work, to keeping the lights on, and I gave my leftovers to my wife and kids. If I could go back, I'd reverse that. Your relationships are your legacy, not your resume. As Jason moved through the facility, he heard stories that ranged from heartbreaking to humorous, but all rang with a depth that could only come from a lifetime of learning. Margaret Lane, a vibrant 76-year-old former librarian, leaned in conspiratorially when Jason asked her. Here's what no one will tell you, she whispered. Forgiveness isn't for the other person, it's for you. I held on to anger for 20 years. My sister and I had a fight over something silly, wedding flowers of all things, and we didn't speak for 2 decades. She wiped a tear from her cheek. We finally reconciled when our mother died. We were standing there side by side at the funeral, and I thought, what the hell did we gain from all those silent years? Nothing. Forgiveness would have freed us both. Jason paused recording and gently put a hand on hers. Thank you, he said. That's powerful. He also met Charles and Edith Monroe, married for 63 years. They sat together in matching rocking chairs like characters out of a storybook. When asked for life advice, Edith took the lead. People think love is grand gestures, roses, poems, fancy vacations. But real love? She asked. It's choosing each other again every morning, even on the days when you're angry or tired or bored. It's folding laundry together and making soup when the other is sick. That's the love that lasts. Charles nodded. And don't go to bed angry, he added. I know it sounds cliché, but it matters. Jason felt himself emotionally stretched in every direction. These weren't just tips for living. They were truths carved out of decades of joy, pain, and change. Later he met Nora Whitaker, 84, who had never married. She'd worked as a journalist and traveled across 5 continents before settling in Aspen Ridge. When Jason asked her the question, she smiled knowingly. "No one talks about how you don't have to follow the crowd," she said. "I watched all my friends marry by 25, have kids, buy houses in the suburbs. I tried it for a while, I was even engaged. But I realized I didn't want that life. I wanted my life." She looked directly into Jason's camera. "It's okay to want something different. Don't let people's expectations trap you. Freedom has a cost, yes. But regret costs more." As Jason packed up for the day, he felt as though he had uncovered something precious. Something real. The media was flooded with quick fixes, productivity hacks, and success formulas. But here, in the quiet halls of Golden Pines, were life lessons that no one tweeted or turned into TED Talks. They were quiet truths, spoken softly by those who had lived long enough to know what really matters. He returned the next week and the week after. He listened to advice on parenting, on coping with failure, on letting go of guilt, on embracing aging rather than fearing it. Each story was a piece of a larger mosaic, a human experience told through 100 different voices. Jason's short film, eventually titled What We Know Now, Honest Lessons from the Wisest Among Us, became a viral sensation not because it was flashy, but because it was true. People around the world resonated with the raw humanity in the stories. Strangers commented about how the film helped them mend broken relationships, leave unfulfilling jobs, or make peace with the past. One of the final interviews in Jason's project came from Thomas Gray, 89 years old and once a high school history teacher. His hands were frail, but his mind was sharp. "You want to know something nobody talks about?" he asked. "Fear. Most people run their whole lives on fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of failure. Fear of what others will think. I did it too. I wanted to be a writer. Never tried. Always thought I wasn't good enough." He looked out the window, his voice quiet. "You know what kills more dreams than failure? Silence. Silence about your desires. Silence about your talents. Silence about who you really are." Jason sat in silence for a moment, then finally said, "So what would you tell your younger self?" Thomas smiled gently. "I'd tell him to speak up. Take the risk. Say what he means. Love without hesitation. And never, ever wait for permission to live." The project took 6 months to complete. By then, Jason had visited over 20 retirement communities across the Midwest. He gathered stories from veterans, former nurses, homemakers, artists, janitors, and professors. Their backgrounds were different, but their messages carried common threads. Value relationships, forgive quickly, take care of your body, pursue purpose, and never assume time is guaranteed. The last day of filming was particularly emotional.